Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to my ranking all of the books that I read in the second half of 2021 video. That title is in progress. So this is probably going to be a lengthy one. I don't think that I read any more in the second half of 2021 than I did in the first half, maybe. But I do have all of it ready to go on the tier ranking list, so let's just jump right into it, I guess. Okay, so I think all of these populated in automatically, like by alphabetical order, so we're just gonna do it in the order that it came in as, which is A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan. Now, if I want to go over my tiers again, like I did in the last video, red is new favorite, or in this case, I think there's a reread in here, so it's also going to be old favorites. I am giving it that option depending on whether or not it ends up in that category. We shall see. Loved it just means I liked it, but it wasn't quite something that I am still thinking about and foresee myself, you know, being obsessed with in the future. But I still really liked it, and if it was part of a series, I would continue in the series. Meh, it was okay. Solidly a 3-star read. I don't really have any particular negative feelings about it, but I don't really have any particular strong feelings of adoration for it either. Not for me doesn't necessarily mean that it's a book that I wouldn't recommend to other people. It just means that there was a lot of it that didn't work for me in a probably more negatively feeling way, and then Truly Terrible is something that I just think is absolutely god-awful and don't really think that should be recommended to anybody. So again, we're going to start with A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan. I think that that's probably going to go into the loved it category. I really enjoyed it. There were some things that I did not enjoy about it, but it's definitely a series that I plan on continuing. It just wasn't a new favorite for me. Among Thieves, this was not for me. This book was marketed as being for fans of Six of Crows. I think that it probably tried to follow the lines of Six of Crows a little bit too much, in that I just don't think it hit the mark. I know a lot of people enjoyed it, so I know that that's not necessarily something, you know, that everybody agrees with, but it was not for me. I don't feel like continuing on to the second book. I talked about this in my wrap-up. I talked about this in my vlog that I think I was reading. I think I was doing when I was reading this. The way that Six of Crows ended is a lot how the Among Thieves book ended, and it's a very high stakes moment. There's a lot of stuff happening, and I just don't feel the need to continue on with that. Artifact 299, this is, here's a plug, Lauren. This is a novella that was written by Lauren from Lighting Lavender. Her author name is L.A. Binley, and she wrote a novella about a girl trying to document her experiences trying to survive in the midst of a zombie apocalypse. I really enjoyed this one. I ended up giving it 5 stars. I am going to put it firmly into the loved it category. I liked it a lot. I need a little bit more from the ending. Novellas and I have a lot of a struggle in the past if I'm not previously connected to the characters, and this is one that I almost wish had been a full-fledged book, because I wanted to know more about what had caused what was going on, which was kind of hinted at in the end. I just really liked it. I definitely recommend it to all of you guys. Go and check it out. We have another novella here, and that is Artificial Condition by Martha Wells. I think this is book 3. I don't remember if Artificial Condition came first or if Rogue Protocol came first, or if Exit Strategy came first. Honestly, I read all of these audibly and back to back, so the 3 of them kind of blend together in my head. I can remember the events, but not the titles. Okay, so I did look it up. Artificial Condition is the second book, and that means that it was the one that I enjoyed the most. That is firmly going into new favorite. Murderbot and I have gotten along very well since we started our journey. I love that character. I love the story. I can't wait to read the full-length novel that came out. It is on my list after I have now finished all four of the novellas. Of the 3 novellas that I read in the second half of 2021, Artificial Condition was definitely my favorite. I would say, I'm just gonna go ahead and pull them out right now. I would say that Rogue Protocol loved it, but I didn't enjoy it quite as much as Artificial Condition. Everything about that series so far has been absolutely perfect for me. Just Rogue Protocol, the story in it just didn't really do it quite as much. But I still enjoyed it. And then Fugitive Telemetry wrapped up a lot of stuff that was happening in the first Murderbot book. I don't remember what it was called. All Systems Red, I think. It was interesting. Again, I didn't love it quite as much as the first or the second one, so that's going to go into love it as well. Now, Aurora's End, this is the third book in the, I almost said Illumine files, but it's the Aurora cycle, I think. The third book, the conclusion, I definitely liked it better than the second one, which left us on a super needless cliffhanger. I don't think I loved it as much as the first one, so I don't think it's going to be a new favorite, but I definitely loved it. I loved seeing the characters. I loved the entire beginning of it. There were certain characters that I really just didn't enjoy as much reading about, which is why it's not going to go into new favorite. The first one 100% was a favorite for me because you got all of the found family characters pretty much in every single scene together. That's what I loved, but in both the second book and the third book, you spent long stretches of time with characters that I didn't quite care as much about, so that's probably why I didn't love it quite as much. Now we go on to Beasts of Prey by Ayana Gray, and this is sadly going to go into meh, it was okay for me. I liked it. I did not come close to loving it, and towards the end of it, it did feel a little bit less like I was liking it. It was a 3-star read for me. The characters were okay, but they read a little bit on the younger side for me. The magic system was really, really cool. The setting was really, really cool. The world building was really, really cool. But I just didn't connect with the characters at all, and for that reason, it's going into meh, it was okay. Belle Book and Key by Risa Walker is book 3 in her Chronos Origins series. I have talked about her time travel series on my channel multiple times now. This is the spin-off series from her original time traveling story, which was the Chronos Files, which follows a girl who is trying to write the timeline as it is kind of shifting around her. Her grandmother is a historian from the future that got stuck in her current timeline and ended up having kids. And that's kind of where the main character in that falls into, because she is the only one capable at this time of trying to fix the timeline because somebody else that got stuck in the past is traveling around and ruining things pretty much with the timeline. So this is a spin-off, and this takes place 100 years in the future? No, maybe not that far. It takes place far in the future. I think some of the characters from that first series are still alive, but it does take place in that future, and it kind of involves the characters that originally created the time travel technology, but before they have done it, and they kind of, here's where things get kind of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey. They are the people who invented time traveling in their future. However, since the time travelers in the future had gone to the past, time traveling technically already exists in their timeline, and they are using it instead now to fix, again, people who are breaking the timeline, if you followed any of that. It was good. I like time travel things. I love you generally learn about history in them, and I am a history nerd. Each of these 3 books have kind of focused on a specific period of history. Now, the first one in the Chronos Origins focused a little bit more on, Beatles era America, so that time period, but what was happening in the States, and that was really, really interesting. I adored the first book in this trilogy, and the second and third ones just weren't quite as good for me. I did like this third one more than I liked the second one, which dragged a lot. So that's going to go into loved it. City of Iron and Dust. This is hard for me because I technically DNF'd this. I think that I got to maybe 75% before I literally couldn't do it anymore, and I just skim read the last of it. This is really nothing on this book at all. I think that a lot of people would really enjoy it. I think that it was really, really unique, and it was a purely fantasy setting, but of an urban variety. There was a lot of technology. Goblins were pretty much ruling everything, and humans were the ones that were being subjugated, I think. But goblins were the ruling high class, and it was good. The prose was not it for me. I don't know if that was really my issue. I thought that the characters were entertaining. I thought that the world was really entertaining. I genuinely don't know why this didn't click for me, which is why it's going down into not for me, because I do know a lot of people would enjoy it, and it was not truly terrible. There was nothing wrong with it. I just don't know why it didn't work for me. That same thing I think is going to happen to Curse of the Specter Queen by, I think her name is Jenny Elder Moak. I was pumped for this book. It was like a historical Indiana Jones, but she's a girl and she's like American, and I don't really know what else made it special about that, but there was magic involved. And Indiana Jones is pretty much enough to pull me into anything, listen. But this was not, I don't know why this was not what I wanted from it. I think that it was definitely on the very younger side of young adult, and not in a good way like I generally find like the Rick Riordan books, but in a everything was predictable and the way that they were acting genuinely irritated the crap out of me kind of way. I think that a lot of people enjoyed this as well. I think that she has a second book that everybody was really waiting for. I'm not going to be continuing on in the series, but I know that a lot of people enjoyed it, and good for them. I am glad for them. Next, we have Dawn Shard, which is going to be in Loved It, because while I did enjoy it a lot, his novellas just are not the same for me as reading his full-length novels. I liked the characters that we followed. I liked following, I think it's Rock's daughter, and Lopin. They're both super entertaining characters, but we do follow a disabled character who is wheelchair bound, and they are trying to accommodate her disabilities as they sail off to an island where certain things are happening. Whoops. And it was good. I really enjoyed it. I listened to it audibly. I don't really have much else to say about it, but I do enjoy all of the characters that we followed in it. It's just not a story that I'm going to constantly be thinking about in the future, which is something I can say about Dreadnation as well. I liked Dreadnation a lot when I was reading it. This is a Civil War era zombie novel in which Black people are being forced to go to these schools to learn how to fight zombies, and white people don't. They are the ones who are being protected, and they don't learn how to protect themselves. They just get Black people to do it for them. And it was really, really good. The audiobook was really, really good. Actually, I wish I had a category between meh, it was okay, and loved it, because I don't feel meh about this, but it's not really a new favorite. But I think in terms of rounding up, that should be a thing that I'm doing. So we're going to move it into loved it, but it was kind of somewhere in between those two categories. I guess I could add another one if I wanted to, but I really don't want to. Anyway, so zombies, Civil War, and the main character, is an absolute badass. She was fantastic, and the way that it ended, I think I really, really liked the way that it ended, and I wanted to read the second one. So I definitely am interested in finishing that series. It's just not a priority for me. Okay, so something went wrong here because I have not actually read Fugitive Telemetry, so we're just gonna have to leave that down here. That is the full-length novel. I don't know how it got onto this list because I haven't read it, but I have read Exit Strategy, which is the fourth novella, and that is the thing that wrapped up a lot of the stuff that happened throughout the first book, and, well, the entire rest of the novellas as well. So that's going to take Fugitive Telemetry's place because I didn't read it. So next up is Fables. This is a reread for me, but it does belong in the new favorites because Fables is so good. I read Fables for the first time back in 2020, and it was great. I loved the characters, I loved the story, I loved the concept, everything about it was so cool, and that is why Fables Volume 2, if I can find that somewhere, is going to go into Loved It. Okay, so Fables Volume 1, definite new favorite, definite great introduction into that series. Can't wait to read more of it, can't wait to see more of those characters. Fables Volume 2 was stressing me out, guys. It was so good, and I was so anxious throughout it, but I didn't love it quite as much as the first one, but I did love the themes that it tackled in it, so I did really enjoy that as well. So that's how those are just going to shake out. Next, we have Gutter Mage by, I think, J.S. Kelly. I loved it. I don't know if this is going to be a series or not, but if it is, I'm 100% going to continue it. It's not quite a new favorite, but it's, again, I don't think it's urban fantasy, but it's definitely like that badass, sharp-edged mercenary main character. I don't really know how to describe her other than that she's rough around the edges. I did see the plot twist coming probably a mile away, but I enjoyed it all the same. I enjoyed the magic. She's so cool. What happened to her? Well, okay, I saw one of the plot twists coming. I didn't see the entire plot twist coming, so that is probably why I enjoyed it as much as I did. But yeah, that was really, really good. Head Over Heels is going to go into Loved It because I had a great time when I was reading it. It's not going to go into new favorite just because I genuinely don't remember what happened. I think that it has to do with a girl. It was like a fun romance read, palate cleanser kind of a thing. The girl, I believe, used to be like an elite level gymnast. Things happened. She got into kind of, I don't remember if it was an abusive relationship, but it was definitely a toxic one. She gets out of that. She doesn't know what to do. She can't play, she can't compete in gymnastics anymore because her body has kind of just like broken down from all of its hard use over the years. But she does become a coach for an up and coming elite gymnast and starts falling in love with the other coach. That was It was good. I enjoyed it. I think I read it in a day. The audiobook was great, but that's all I remember about it. Now, Iron Widow, that's going to go into new favorite because this pops up into my brain every once in a while, and I just think, oh, that was so good because it's robots, but it's Chinese mythology, and it's like Pacific Rim, and oh, it's just so good. It's so good. If you haven't read Iron Widow, go read Iron Widow. I can't wait for book 2 because I need to know what's going to happen with that plot twist that happened in the end. Knight's Shadow is book 2 in the Greatcoat series, and I did not like it as much as the first one. So that's going to go into loved it, but it's going to go, yeah, it's going to go and loved it. Now, Greatcoat's the book, the Traitor's Blade, I think is the first one. That would be in a new favorite, but Knight's Shadow, it was good. I didn't love it quite as much. And I definitely want to read the rest of the series and find out what happens to all of them. Luminous. This is not for me. I talked about this a lot recently because I did read it towards the end of 2021, so I'm not going to go too much into depth about it, but honestly, it was just kind of bland for me. The characters were bland, the magic was bland. I don't know if there's going to be a second book or if this is a standalone, but I just didn't care at the end. I didn't care what was happening to people. I didn't care what was going on. Promise of Blood is meh. It's okay, just because I don't really know what happened in that book. I was slumping hard when I read Promise of Blood, so I think that I would like to reread it again in the future. Maybe physically, audiobook just gave me too much room to not pay attention to the events of what was happening, and it left me thoroughly confused. I remember there were some parts that I paid really close attention to because I was really enjoying them. I can still picture them in my head. There were some parts that I have no idea what was going on. So, Promise of Blood is something that I plan to reread in the future, physically at least, or ebook. But as it stands right now, it was just okay. Now, Queen of Blood by Sarah Beth Durst is absolutely a new favorite. This book series gripped me, and the second one is on here somewhere. I enjoyed the first one a little bit more. I really need to finish this trilogy. It's probably one of the series that I would prioritize finishing this year. But Queen of Blood was just so good. The magic system, the characters, the school training arc thing, the way that it ended, everything about it blew my mind. The narrator was good because I did listen to a little bit of it audibly. I just loved everything about it, honestly. Now we get into one of my favorite authors, which is Karen Rose, and she writes romantic suspense. She generally does like mass market romantic suspense, like definitely the kinds that you would see like on the shelf in the grocery store. But I've been reading her books for so long that she is an auto-buy author for me. Her books give me massive Criminal Minds vibes. I am also a big Criminal Minds fan, and reading them is like a fun, I mean, not really fun, because like murder and lots of bad stuff happens, but like they are romance at their core. It's about people falling in love in the middle of adversity. I know that that's not for everybody, but it is absolutely for me. She does have a lot of disability rep of different kinds in a lot of her different books as well. So these books in particular are 2 books in her Sacramento series, which are about a cult and people escaping from a cult and trying to bring said cult down, with a couple of, I believe one is an FBI agent and one is a local police officer. Maybe 2 of them are FBI agents. So, Say Goodbye came first, and I really, really liked that one. New favorite for sure, because I loved the 2 characters that it involved. The third one, I believe, was Say No More. That's going to go into loved it. It just didn't focus as much on the romance and focused a lot more on the suspense plot, which is great. It tied up a lot of the things that were happening in the previous 2 books in terms of all of the bad stuff that was happening to the characters because of the cult. But because the characters were friends when they started, like really, really, really good friends, I just don't think that the relationship developed as much as I would like it to. Hence, loved it and not new favorite. Sleeping Giants is definitely new favorite because I still think about this book to this day. I need to finish the series ASAP because I adored Sleeping Giants so much. The audiobook was phenomenal. The writing was phenomenal. The story was phenomenal. Sleeping Giants was great. So This Is Christmas is another fun, fluffy romance. This is a YA romance around Christmas time, so of course it was hitting all of those Hallmark movie vibes for me. Definitely loved it. I liked the characters, I liked the stuff that was happening to them, the fun, quirky romance that was going on. It was great. I loved it. However, spoiler alert is the one that is going to be my new favorite in terms of romance, because spoiler alert was phenomenal. It was everything that, like, fan fiction is about, and I mean, obviously it has a theme. Spoiler alert, the second book is all the feels, but this is about a plus-size cosplayer who posts a picture of herself in a cosplay outfit, and it comes to the attention of one of the head actors, the main actors in a very Game of Thrones-like TV show, and the circumstances bring them together, and they end up falling in love, and it's just so good. It's so good. Steel Crow Saga. I really, really liked this. I have heard recently some controversy surrounding the author. I don't know the specifics about it, but I do know that this is also a standalone, so I'm just going to put it in loved it, because I did really, really enjoy it. I loved the characters and the magic system and everything about it, but I guess there's not much more to be read in that anyway, so that's where that's gonna go. Sunreach is also going to go into loved it, because while I adored Skyward and I adored Starsight, these are just not the characters that I am necessarily as interested in. I gave Sunreach a 5 stars. I liked this world. I liked this entire premise. It was good. Read On is also going to go into this category, but I don't love Read On as much as I loved Sunreach. Yeah, so that's pretty much where that's gonna go. Sword of Destiny, I don't really feel like meh, it was okay. So I think we're gonna go into loved it, which is a very heavy category at the moment, clearly. But I did really, really enjoy it. I think I liked it more than the first book, and that might be because I do have a little bit more of a handle on that world by now. I think that the first book, The Last Wish, got 3 stars for me, and The Sword of Destiny definitely was a step up, in my opinion. It's still a struggle for me. I don't love anthologies, and even when I'm familiar with the world, I have to be, like, those stories have to pertain to a series that I am already familiar with. Hence why Sunreach and Read On were okay, because I am already familiar with what's going on, I'm already familiar with those characters, whereas Sword of Destiny, these short stories are, none of the main storyline has happened yet, so I don't know, I just don't feel as much of a connection to it, just dropping around stories from his past. Maybe I would feel differently if I had finished playing the video game, which is currently at a standstill for me, but we will never know. Bone Shard Emperor is also going to go into loved it. I don't have any meh feelings about it. It's not a new favorite like the Bone Shard Daughter was for me. I just think that it has middle book syndrome, but I did really enjoy it. The Corpse Queen, I think we're gonna go meh, it was okay. This is about a girl who gets adopted by apparently her long lost aunt, and she becomes embroiled in her grave robbing business. In the name of science, and it was like historical, I think, Philadelphia. There's no supernatural aspect to it. It's just kind of like the underground, grave robbing world, I guess. And that was really good, but it was okay. I didn't love it. I definitely think that there is a niche for the people that would like this, and I am not one of them. I don't feel the need to carry on with the series, especially the way that it ended. I'm not really a huge fan of that, so meh, it was okay. The Crimson Crown is a reread for me. It goes into new favorite automatically. I love the Seven Realms series. This is the 4th book in that. The other ones are here too. So this is the 4th book and final book in that, and one of my favorite books in that whole series, I think, just because everything does wrap up in it. I have a hard time separating them because every time I've read the Seven Realms, I've binged them, so I don't necessarily always remember very well the events of the books individually. But this one, I do remember. I loved the end of it. I loved the romance. I loved everything about it. The Emperor's Soul, right into new favorites. This is a rare exception to the not familiar with the people or the story. The Emperor's Soul is a book that was on my top reads of the entire year video, and it was just so good. I still think about it, honestly. It was great, and it was a novella that I would love to reread again in the future because I enjoyed what was happening so much, and I want Brandon Sanderson to write more about that character or characters. The X Hex. This is another one that would go firmly in a category between meh, it was okay, and loved it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the audiobook. I enjoyed the premise. I enjoyed the romance. It was not quite like I really, really, really loved it, but it was not quite in a meh, it was okay either. It was just a fun romance palate cleanser. I already said this is one of my favorite series, so all three of them are going permanently into new favorite, or old favorite, I guess in this case, because, yeah, that's just where they go. The Haunting of Hill House. I don't know that I can really... We're gonna do it. We're just gonna put it there. I hated this. I hated it a lot. I am not a horror person. I think that is just what we're learning about this right now. I'm not a horror person, and the prose in this was not for me. The storyline was not for me. The ending was not for me. I just did not enjoy my reading of this at all. There was no redeeming qualities that I can be like, yeah, but that was okay. I hated every second of it. I don't really feel the need to read anymore, and I definitely don't feel the need to watch the TV show. The Last Graduate. This is rough for me. We're gonna go in meh, it was okay, because I hated the ending that much. I adored this book until the very last page. I needed 2 more pages. 2 more pages, and I would have been satisfied. This would have gone into new favorite, but with the way that it ended, I am pissed. I am pissed off that that was the way that we decided to go when we have to wait an entire year for the next book. I despise cliffhangers, and I despise needless cliffhangers, and all I wanted to know was whether or not things went okay for the majority of the characters that I had spent 2 books caring about, and I do not get to find that out, and therefore, The Last Graduate is meh, it was okay. So the original is going to go into loved it, because I really, really enjoyed reading it, I really, really enjoyed listening to it, I enjoyed the thought experiment kind of feel to it. Definitely not new favorite like The Emperor's Soul was. I did read these back to back, but I really enjoyed it. The Orphan Witch, this is going to go into meh, it was okay, which is rare for me for romance novels, but The Orphan Witch just had a quality to it that I didn't connect with. I didn't connect to any of the characters. The one character that I did like and want to know more about, which was the male love interest, was not there as much as I would have wanted him to be. It was a whole thing. I didn't really love it, so that's where it's going to go. The Other Merlin is definitely a new favorite. Robin Schneider managed to write a phenomenal Arthurian retelling with a female Merlin and a romance between Merlin and Arthur, and a lot of anachronistic humor that I know probably doesn't work for a lot of people, but really, really worked for me, and I absolutely loved it. It was fantastic. I cannot wait to read the second book. I hope that it is equally as great, but it was so good. The Reluctant Queen, also going into new favorite. That is the second book in the Queens of Renthia series. I loved the new character that was introduced. I loved seeing the vulnerabilities from characters from the first one. I don't know that I love the romance that was taking place in this quite as much, but I don't hate it, and I do love the entire storyline as a whole, so The Reluctant Queen is going there. The Rise of Magix, this is the 3rd book in her Chronicles of the One, I think is the name of the series, and it's meh, it was okay. I was disappointed by the end of this trilogy, and I don't think I've ever said that about a Nora Roberts trilogy before in my life. We spent a lot of time ramping up to this 3rd book, and the stakes just kept getting higher and higher and higher, and I feel like the 3rd one just kind of fell flat when we got there. I was okay with it, but I didn't really love it, and it was kind of a mediocre read for me in terms of Nora Roberts books that I've read in the past. I just realized that The Undertakers by Nicole Glover is also down at the bottom, and I can't really include it because I read the majority of it in 2022. It's not on my 2021 spreadsheet, so we're just not going to talk about it. Both of those books at the end, we're just going to pretend they're not there. They Met in a Tavern by Elijah Menchaca was fantastic, and it definitely belongs in the loved it category. You felt like you were reading a D&D campaign. The characters were great, the powers were great, the humor was great, the mystery was great. I just enjoyed my time in this book from beginning to end. 100% recommend it. Now, Well Played is the 2nd book in the Well Met series, and that is by Jen DeLuca. It's like Ren Fair romance. Well Played was okay. Well Met was phenomenal. I loved all of those characters. Well Played involves a bit of a catfishing thing, and I was not a huge fan of it, especially not a huge fan of the way everybody just didn't seem to care at the end. I mean, the fact that he catfished her was very brushed off, in my opinion. I think that a lot more of attention should have been paid to that aspect of their romance. Yeah, so the second one, I liked it, but I didn't love it as much as the first one, or as much as the third one, which is Well Matched, which definitely goes into new favorite, because I think I liked it more than Well Met. Mitch as a character is entertaining, and April, I think is her name, was a fantastic, badass older sister, single mom, and she stood up for everything that she wanted to stand up for. Her social anxiety, it was just, all of it was super, super relatable, and the romance was fantastic, the heat was fantastic, it was great. Winterlight by Kristen Britton, one of the best installments in the Green Rider series to this date, which, if you know how much I love the series, is saying a lot for me, but I think that it is honestly the best one that she has come out with yet. Welcome to Heartbreak by Julian Thomas, I think we're going to put into Loved It. I really liked this first installment in his graphic novel series. I want to read more of it. I do feel like there was not much that actually happened in this first one, but I'm excited to see what happens next. So finally, we do have Thor, which is Son of Asgard, I think. This is a comic book. This is the first installment in that 2004 run of this particular character, and it was okay. I was okay with the storyline. Obviously, it was very short. It is a comic book. The artwork was not for me. It felt super dated, which is weird because it's literally from like the early 2000s, and I have seen comic book art from way before that I liked way more than this. So I don't know what was going on there, but I felt like I was reading like Conan the Barbarian in terms of art style. It just wasn't for me. I enjoy all things Marvel. Thor as a character is not at the very top of my list of favorites, but I do like Thor. But yeah, I don't know. Something about that didn't click for me. So there we have all of my books in terms of how I would rank them in 2021, the second half of 2021, that is. Going through and deciding which one I like best. I'm just going to do that real quick. I'm not really going to talk about my reasoning for it. But I think that's how that's going to be. Obviously, The Haunting of Hill House gets to be there by itself. City of Iron Dust gets moved to the top just because I enjoyed that premise more than any of the other ones. Curse of the Specter Queen, I didn't really care. And Among Thieves, I didn't really care. For this, I think, let's see, you can go towards the end, you can go towards the end, you can go towards the middle, you can probably be bumped up there, you can probably be bumped up there. Yeah, I think that's how that's going to fall. Just because I did enjoy this for the majority of it. Promise of Blood was okay. No, that's going to go towards the end. Sorry. Middle. Rise of Magics, I was already connected to that series. Orphan Witch, it's romance and it's supernatural, so that automatically kind of helps it in terms of everything else on this list, and that's just how that's going to land. For these ones, I think we're going to move Sunreach towards the top, Dawn Shard towards the top, Well Played towards the middle, Fables Volume 2 towards the top, Head Over Heels kind of towards the middle, Gutter Mage towards the top, Aurora's End needs to stay up there. Bone Shard Emperor is actually probably up there more than anything else. The original is kind of towards the middle of this. I think Sword of Destiny might go towards the end, and Dreadnation might go towards the end. I think that that's it. So I really enjoyed everything in this category, obviously, but I think that Sunreach and Bone Shard were two of my very favorites out of this category, but obviously everything in my loved it category I liked a lot. And now towards the top, this is going to be really hard for me because I reread these three. Emperor's Soul, definitely at the top. Winter, Light, and the other Merlin, Queen of Blood, and Renthia need to be there. I think that I'm going to leave these three technically at the bottom just because they are rereads, and I don't think that they kind of have, just because they're nostalgic doesn't mean that they should be at the very, very top of my new favorite category. So, spoiler alert, actually is going to go probably up there because I loved it that much. Iron Widow, probably around here. And I think that that's good for that also. So yeah, that is all that I have for my tier ranking my second half of 2021. I loved all of the books. I had a very good reading year in general. A lot of things that I felt kind of meh about, but a lot of things that I really, really loved. I started a lot of new series that I really, really enjoy that I need to finish. I'm probably not going to link everything in the description box down below because that would be super tedious and super difficult for you guys to sort through anyway. But if you did want to check out the description box, down there you'll find an unplugged book box rep code of CAT5 for 5% off of your monthly subscription. You're also going to find my book of the month affiliate link and links to my Goodreads, my Twitter, and my Instagram in case you wanted to follow me on any of those. But other than that, don't forget to like this video if you liked it and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content from me. Other than that, I will talk to you guys in my next video. Bye!